We hear almost daily that the United States has a gun problem, that we have a gun violence problem. That conversation largely ignores a much more compelling statistic. Homicides, in general, are overwhelmingly perpetrated by men, regardless of whether the victim is male or female. According to the most recent FBI crime stats, of the homicides committed last year where the perpetrator is known, 90% were committed by men. I think most people would agree that as a society, we have an obligation to work toward decreasing violence. We can't do that unless we have a serious discussion about the causes of violence and what we can do to mitigate the conditions that promote violence. We can start by discouraging rather than rewarding aggressive and violent behaviors as a way of proving one's masculinity. Boys and men are not biologically or genetically predisposed to be murderers. Rather, violence is part of how masculinity is enacted and celebrated. Men have been brought up to define themselves as men through violence. Men who are less aggressive or less violent are often portrayed as less masculine. Where do men learn to equate violence with masculinity? It starts young and it gets constantly reinforced. They learn it from their fathers and their sports heroes. They learn it when male celebrities and professional athletes commit heinous violent acts against women, children, and other men, and in return get fame and big contracts. They learn it because our media glorifies it. They learn it from each other in the classrooms and on the playgrounds. And then, as they grow up, we admonish them to man up or take it like a man. The relationship between masculinity and violence is not new, but the opportunities for a man to publicly reinforce his masculinity have shifted. One of the areas we see this shift is in mass murders. Overwhelmingly committed by men, most of these crimes involve men who have suffered some sort of crisis of masculinity. They've lost their jobs, they've been bullied through school, they have suffered some private or public emasculation. Simultaneously, they've seen other men glorified by the media for committing mass murders. They've seen those same men immortalized, their names and deeds striking fear in the hearts of women, children, and other men. In many ways, the attention we give to the perpetrators of mass violence is an unhealthy form of cultural reverence. In the same ways that we equate violence with masculinity, admitting to mental illness is reserved almost exclusively for girls and women. Seeking help for mental illness is treated as a weakness in a man. Some of our most vulnerable young men are simultaneously shamed for needing help and glorified for enacting rage. It's the perfect recipe for tragic public acts of mass violence, and we are all complicit in it.